Hey everyone, here's your third week, officially your third week, if you will, video from the instructor, right? Instructor Heather here. I'm going to give you a few notes on last week, right? As you've generated and submitted all of your work. Hopefully none of you are scurrying quickly right now to submit things, but if you are, you still have a lot of time. As well as let you know what's coming on this week, right? So hopefully you enjoyed the Sherlock Holmes piece as much as I have enjoyed it. But if you didn't, that's okay too. You don't have to like everything we do in class, which is really neat, I think. Hopefully you enjoyed watching the video as well, right? The episode of Sherlock, and hopefully you like binge watch all of it because it's a really great show. But when you have time, not in place of doing your work, I wanted to let you guys know while you hopefully enjoyed those assignments, you have new assignments this week. I will be giving you an audio lecture on Doyle as well as Sherlock Holmes, both pieces, later in the week, just to kind of supplement what you did last week. Um, Listen at your own risk, I guess. I really enjoy Sherlock Holmes, so I don't mind talking about it at all. But it'll be a quick snippet in case you wanted a formal lecture about Sherlock Holmes and maybe what is new and interesting outside of your own head, right? Other things this week include the review essay. I sent you all the correct version of the assignment sheet yesterday, and hopefully you got it, hopefully you reviewed it, hopefully you noticed the changes. Previously, in previous semesters, I've given everyone a choice of doing whichever work they wanted so far in the course. Because we're starting the review essay a little sooner than usual, we are going to focus once again on the Sherlock Holmes piece, the written piece, not the video, not the episode. So if you didn't read it and you just watched it, that sucks. You got to read it now, and you have to write a paper on it for a few weeks. So don't skip it. There is an audio file in case you'd rather listen to it. I do suggest you all read it again, even if you've read it before, just for your paper's sake rather than your mind's sake, right? Other things I can tell you, you want to review that previous email I sent yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday. Today's Monday for me making this video. Other things I can tell you about the paper, it's 2 to 3 pages typed. That's double spaced. In my head, when I was a student, I said, okay, if it's 2 to 3 pages double spaced, that means it's 1 to 1.5 pages single spaced, and I did the math that way. If it makes you feel better, feel free to do that. Um, and the assignment sheet specifically says you have to speak about the Doyle piece, the Sherlock Holmes piece. Other parts of the assignment say, when you've chosen your piece, it sounds like you have an option about what story to choose, but you don't. Just want to make that clear. You're doing the Sherlock Holmes piece. Also, the assignment sheet includes a list of questions you want to kind of answer and generate for yourself before you start writing anything at all, right? So you don't have to answer those things formally. You don't have to submit them to me or share them with your peers in a forum. You just have to think about those questions after you've read the story a second or a third time and start to think about the story more formally, more academically with the guide of those questions. And once you've done those things and you feel like, okay, I have a pretty good um, grasp on how best to review this piece, because this is a review essay, right? It's not a summary. I don't want a summary of what happens in the story because I've read the story. I know what happens. I want a review from your perspective of the story. Could be a component of the story, could be a piece of the story, could be a comparison of the story. What I want specifically is a review. The easiest way to do a review essay is to take 3 things. Just say you thought the whole story was phenomenal, and here are the 3 reasons why you thought it was so great, right? Or you could say, I thought the story was terrible. It was slow, it wasn't great, it doesn't compare to things I've read previously. Those are 3 things you didn't like about it. You have to expand on those things, right? A review you want to think of, maybe this is easier to think of in terms of like a restaurant, right? You want to review a restaurant, you're going to talk about the food, the atmosphere, and the price, right? You've generated 3 categories in which your review will stand, right? If your review had 3 legs, those are the 3 legs it would stand on. You're doing the same thing for this piece of literature, right? This story. So do keep that in mind. The biggest mistake I see with these review essays is someone just sends me 3 pages of summary of what happens in the story, and I'm exhausted. You're exhausted from writing such a thorough summary, and then I have to tell you to start over, which is not a place you want to be in, not a place I want to be in, and you don't want to have a bad grade from the get-go, right? So follow instructions. Make sure you know what's going on. Other than that, you should be fine. We have several weeks of revision, so you can catch yourself early if you're not going in the right direction. Other things in that assignment sheet are guidelines on how best to review, right? How best to review the story. And then the last part of your assignment sheet, other than the guidelines, are the revision tips. You should use those revision tips hopefully before you send to your smart thinking tutor, definitely after you've heard from that smart thinking tutor, and definitely later, like later weeks. You want to keep coming back to those revision tips. Also, you have an MLA checklist at the top of your My Courses page. You're welcome. As well as a revision checklist. It's a very thorough revision checklist. So if I see at your final draft that you still haven't double spaced your paper or put it in 12-point font Times New Roman, you get massive points off because you should have caught that several drafts before, several checklists, several tutoring responses, several reminders from me via email. If you choose not to make those revisions that are readily available for you in every way possible, you lose a lot of points for just not following directions, right? So do keep that in mind. And speaking of revisions, everyone's drafts will be turned in. Your first draft will be turned in. And how I do it this semester is I take your first draft, I read everyone's collectively. I make sure everyone gets a grade. You get a grade for submitting something, which is great points for you. And I send you all an email with general notes for everyone. Things that everyone messed up on, things that everyone should consider, things that everyone should have done better in or needs to pay closer attention to, right? And before you're like, oh, I don't get individual attention, I can't believe this is happening again. Hold up, right? Your first draft, you're given a collective email. Your second or final draft gets individual feedback from me next to your grade. And I do this not to leave you stranded with corrections and nowhere to go, but instead to allow you to learn and generate your own revisions. Work through it, trudge through it, really sweat and bleed through it on your own. And then at the end of that process, I give you some individual feedback and you can revise your essay up until finals week, right? For a better grade, just like last semester. So do keep that in mind. Before you feel stranded, you can always talk to me via email or via Skype about any of your questions, any of your concerns. But on top of that as well, you will get emails from me with general corrections. You'll keep working with your tutor and you'll hopefully do the best you could possibly do, which is great work. Okay, other things I can tell you. Let's see here. No attachments, and most of you didn't do this, but some of you did. There should be no attachments in your journals or your forum postings, right? I can tell you that more often than not, if you put an attachment instead of just write your response in that box, people do not read your attachment because they have to download it. They have to go through all the rigmarole. Don't worry about all that. They just don't respond to you and you're left out of the discussion, which sucks. That's not the point, right? Instead, no attachments. Just write your response in those blocks. If you're worried about spelling and grammar, write it in a Word document, then copy and paste it into the box. But make sure you're writing in that box for the forums and the journals, right? I don't want to see any more. You won't lose points this week for not doing it correctly, but from here on out, because you've seen this video, because you know, don't attach anything into those boxes. Just go ahead and write your response in there. What I can tell you from here, Smart Thinking Tutoring Forums. For those of you who are new to the course, say you just joined, you want to make sure that your tutor is giving you a form back. You again get an email when they've sent you your paper back. You want to attach that form to its Dropbox on My Courses, and then you want to revise your paper according to their corrections and then submit your paper to me in that Dropbox, right? So I should not have 2 copies of your revised paper. That seems ridiculous, and hopefully it seems ridiculous to you too. That doesn't make any sense. You have your tutor form that you got back from your tutor in a Dropbox by the end of the week. And then also you have your revised paper based on all of the revision you did all week long in the actual box, right? So whether you have a paper due this week or you have a paper due next week or every week from here on out, you want to make sure that those documents are in the right places at the right time, right? So make sure you're checking your lecture schedule. Make sure you're checking all of your due dates. Nothing should change, and if it does, I'll send you big blaring red letters and an email letting you know something's changed. Otherwise, I think that's all my notes for you. Expect that Doyle lecture soon on My Courses. It'll be just an audio file. You don't need to stare at me while I talk about Sherlock Holmes. And continue to do good work. You've done good work so far. Your grades will be processed by the latest on Thursday. I'm hoping to get them done sooner than that, but bear with me. There's a lot of you. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, you're good to go and good luck.